I want to begin by introducing you to Joe Rosidi, who is the chair of our art department, and he oversees a group of students that we know and love as the Millbrook Singers. Joe? As the Millbrook Singers are walking out, I just want to say a personal thanks. I learned that they learned that rendition of that song in just a matter of 30 minutes earlier today. So they're good. I thought it would be a powerful message for all of you. And to be fully transparent, Joe had another song arranged, and I said, I don't know that that's going to be right for this audience. So what a powerful message of beautiful things are with us all the time. I want to welcome all of you to this special place, Flagler Memorial Chapel at Millbrook School. My name is John Downs. I have the honor and privilege of being Millbrook's 7th head of school. Perhaps more importantly, I am an alumnus of Millbrook School, class of 1998. I've spent 22 years in independent school education working exclusively with teenagers. 14 of those years have been here at Millbrook School. I came here with my wife, Erin, in 2010. We moved from Charlotte, North Carolina, where I was a dean of students at a place called Providence Day School. Prior to that, I was an English teacher and a coach at Newark Academy in Livingston, New Jersey. And then in 2010, came here with my wife, Erin, and was the director of admissions, and then the assistant associate head of school. And now I'm in my 26th month of head of school. And like a baby, I'll talk in matters of months until the years actually matter. So we love it here. I have 3 children that were essentially born, and we've been raising them on this campus. My 11-year-old Atticus, my 9-year-old Aurora, and my 6-year-old Finley. So they're very much integrated and a part of this community today. Today is a fabulous turnout. I think we have 160 grandparents here with us today. About half of you have come here before, so you'll hear a little bit of recycled material from me, and half of you are new. And what I like to do at the beginning is just to give a little sense of who's in the audience and ask a couple of poll questions with some door prizes to see who's here and what kind of lives you may have lived. So I was talking with a young gentleman, grandparent today, who is one of 9 siblings. I thought, wow, we don't really see families that big anymore. And so what I thought I might ask of the audience is, we'll start there at the low bidding of 9 siblings. Does anyone come from a bigger family? More than 9 siblings? How many? 11 siblings. Wow. You said, what did you say?
9 boys and 2 girls. My mom had 8 sons and 4 daughters.
So, God bless you. Helen, you are winning today. That is a prolific family. I was also talking with another young gentleman, grandfather, who said that he had 5 children, all biological siblings. So it's not with different families, but the same family. I'm wondering, not grandchildren, but children. Does anyone have more than 5 children?
8.
You have 8 children? Oh my goodness. So you get a bottle of wine. And you've lived to tell the tale.
Lombardo.
Oh, Mr. Fortunato.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
You know my name.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And I promise, though it may be tenuous, I will tie this all together. My last question, has anyone served in the military, or are you a spouse of someone who served in the military? Oh, I knew we were going to need more. I want to go around the room quickly and just tell me where you've served.
Where?
Or not where, not in the Army. Marines. Air Force. Navy. Well, we've got them all covered, got the branch covered. Army.
Army, Vietnam.
Army, Vietnam.
Marines, Vietnam.
Marines, Vietnam. Korea, Vietnam. Amazing. I'm sorry, 2 more. Air Force. Did I miss somebody? Army. Navy. Navy. It's incredible. Army. You know, this is actually what's remarkable about this is that I asked the students on Veterans Day, how many of you have a relative or a really close loved one who served this country in one of the armed forces? And almost every single hand in the school went up. So I begin, well, first of all, everyone who raised their hand and just announced, I'm going to have to get you your prizes as you walk out of the chapel. I'm also going to have to ask my incredible executive assistant to sprint to the bookstore and get more prizes. But I do have something for you. And so here's why I've picked on all of you. Because I believe that if you've come from a very big family, or you've had many children, or if you've served in the armed forces, you know that you're not that important. The nicest way of putting this is that your siblings, your children, and your former drill sergeants have been telling you that for a long time. To put it a nicer way, you've understood that your identity and existence is derived both by your individualism and the wonderful, inescapable family, team, and country from which you come. This is exactly our school motto. It's non sibi sed cunctis. It's not just for oneself, but for all. So I begin by saying thank you for your service or for the unbelievably humbling experience of being a part of a big family. So I begin by saying thank you. Unlike most teenagers, of course, we all over time understand that the world is a lot bigger than any one of us. And for that, I will say that everyone in this room is special. We all have a range of perspectives, and I want to thank you, grandmothers and grandfathers, for joining us here today. And on behalf of the whole Millbrook community, I'm honored and delighted to welcome you here. the day that we have come to call the happiest day of the year, Grandparents' Day. So, why is this the happiest day of the year, you might ask? I believe it's because your grandchildren love you so much more than they love their parents. I am convinced of it. They do. Unlike their parents, they actually want you to be here. You should see what a boarding school drop-off is like. Your grandchildren will sprint away from their parents to get to their dorms, to be with their classmates, to say hello to familiar faculty, to introduce themselves to the community. And your children, that is, our parents, will speed down School Road and they will show signs of relief for having an uninterrupted thought or conversation for the first time in many months. It's peculiar how we display our love sometimes, and some say that absence makes the heart go yonder, but in boarding school, I find that absence makes the heart grow fonder. It is a counterintuitive act of love. Your grandchildren love you because you do have a special way of making them feel totally loved without judgment or hourly questioning. A reminder to some of the returners in the room, my best friend, my roommate at Millbrook School, graduated with me in class of 1998. His late grandfather, Turk Marcello, he used to say to anyone he was with and anyone who he spent time with, this is what he would say: "You are my only friend." He would go up to George and he'd say, "George, there is peace in this world. There is tranquility. I have trust in humanity because of you. You are my only friend." And while he may have been full of beans, malarkey, whatever you want to call it, he had this special way of convincing you that he had unconditional love and support, and therefore you wanted to believe him. This magical connection between grandparent and grandchild is best explained by Sam Levinson. He said this: "The reason grandchildren and grandparents get along so well is because they have a common enemy." My father-in-law, he's in love with my three children, and he says, and I think he stole this from somewhere, but he says, "Grandchildren are the gifts we receive for not killing our own children." And I remind you, he's talking about my wife, Erin, not me. And at risk of exposing too much, my niece is now here at Millbrook School. She's a fourth former, a sophomore, but as we say at Millbrook, a fourth former. And her grandparents are my parents, and they're sitting here today, right here. And at risk of embarrassing my mother, which I love to do, she is so happy, though she wanted to murder my brother many, many times, she's so happy she didn't, because JC's here with us now. So, we're here on the happiest day of the year. You are my only friends. And we are blessed to be in a wonderful school, a noble school with a very clear mission. So here's our mission. In a community where every student is known and needed, Millbrook prepares its students for college and lives of meaning and consequence by instilling the values of respect, integrity, service, stewardship of the natural world, and curiosity. That mission is one sentence. 30 years ago, it was 3 pages long. And what I love about it is it's clear as clear can be. That's our promise of what we're going to deliver. It's who we are, and in some ways, it's who we are not. That clarity, I believe, is helpful these days. Schools are under the microscope for a lot of reasons. A lot of uninformed scrutiny of content without any trained understanding of curriculum from the media and from people who listen. People like to throw around phrases like, the schools are indoctrinating children. And that is, just put a little definition around indoctrination, that they're teaching children to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. Are we indoctrinating students at Millbrook School? We are. We're indoctrinating them with the pursuit of truth and fact, the skills to substantiate claims with convincing and relevant evidence, a sense of what it means to participate in an intentional community that is bigger than the individual self, an ability to express oneself fully and accurately through a variety of mediums, the skill of validating sources of information, searching for points of view that oppose our own, and, I'll linger on this one, it's really important, the habit of deferred judgment. Of course, our values are non-negotiable. Don't come here. If you don't believe in respect, integrity, service, stewardship of the natural world, and curiosity, there's probably another place. We're open about what we value, and in doing so, we're not teaching our students what to think, but rather how to think. And therefore, we are focusing on skills that will ready them to be lifelong learners and critical thinkers. I actually think that the word indoctrination is a rhetorical trap for schools, and any school worth its salt holds inquiry, curiosity, questioning, critical thinking at the very heart of all teaching and learning. And now that I've worked with teenagers for 2 decades, I will make a claim that suggesting this sort of thing for teenagers is nonsense. That teenagers would accept a set of beliefs uncritically, actually I think is insulting to our teenagers. Impressionable though they may be, in my experience, our kids have a lot more James Dean in them. What I mean by that, rebel without a cause. Right? They are far more inclined to rebel and question you than they are to fall in line with a preachy adult. I think by nature, teenagers are nonconformists. And by the way, it's funny when I say James Dean, especially in this audience, I still see grandmas blush. Guy is a dreamboat. Passed away in 1955. He still makes husbands jealous. It's amazing. We're a values-based school, and while we care deeply about preparing your grandchildren for college, in a lot of ways I think that's easy, 18 to 22. What's not easy is, will they be productive, informed, generous, resilient citizens in a democratic society? Can they engage in civil discourse with an open mind, whether they stand with the majority or a minority on any given topic? Will they be good husbands and wives and partners and parents? Will they be ethical leaders and socially conscious volunteers? Will they find an avocation, that is, a hobby, that will live with them through their adult lives and provide them with a sense of purpose and meaning? I believe that truly holistic schools actually have the responsibility of spending as much time preparing students for what it will be like when they're 40 as they do between the years of 18 and 22. The program here at Millbrook School is based upon the founding headmaster Edward Polling's vision of the school. And his vision was really born out of a contradiction, that we were going to be conservatively progressive, which is not a political position. It's a pedagogical one. We are a school, and it is our responsibility and duty as educators to remain apolitical. Conservatively progressive is a pedagogical statement. It's how we think about teaching and learning in a world that sometimes feels new and radical. But when we zoom out, and the pun's intended there, now that we live our lives a little bit on Zoom, it's not a whole lot different from the challenges of almost any generation represented in this room. This is why I think educators need to be interested in timeless skills. So let me share an abridged version of something that Mr. Poling wrote in 1937. Something I read almost weekly and carry near and dear to my heart and mind. So I quote 1937. In our too noisy, too fast-moving life, in a world of moral confusion, we need to pay more attention to an open mind. Perhaps the most dangerous enemy of democracy is not the external influences of foreign threats, but rather the closed minds of so many supposedly well-educated people within our own borders. It may be argued that our students may read and say what they think and that no authority governs our thinking, and that's true. We do not close the minds of our students, but my point is that we often don't sufficiently open them. One just has to listen to the current discussion of government reform or the troubles of the labor force to realize how prejudiced, how lacking in thought and perspective, and how susceptible to the thought of social status are the opinions of the day. 1937. So, if the open mind is not a natural result of the educational process, then it must be deliberately taught. And how do we do that? The first is by placing greater emphasis on the accuracy of language. This is the first step toward clear thinking. Vague and sloppy expressions breed inaccuracies of thought. There can be no other academic achievement more ultimately valuable than the ability to write and speak clearly and effectively. A second way to foster the habit of open-mindedness is to show students how to obtain information and how to evaluate the dependability of its source. The fact that we adults tend to base our opinions on what we read in the newspaper or magazine, usually chosen because it represents our own predispositions, the fact that unconsciously we often give credence to the validity of human utterances just because they come over us like magic waves of ether, seems to me to be convincing evidence of the need for leading students to the most reliable sources of information, for suggesting them different points of view, for giving them the habit of deferred judgment. Otherwise, we will turn into a generation of robots following popular prejudices and misinformation. Every time I read it, 1937. Has much changed. The third method of teaching conducive to open-mindedness is to approach a subject in the spirit of group inquiry. When class meeting ceases to merely be a passive experience and takes on the nature of a project which students attack cooperatively, then education becomes direct preparation for democracy. The teacher no longer sits in judgment of her pupils. She comes down off the dais and joins them in the arena of learning. She will rather lead than dominate discussion. Open-mindedness is therefore, much like social responsibility, it's an attitude that simply doesn't happen. It must be deliberately nurtured. Unquote. Now think about the context. 1937, the sixth year of this school's existence. America was clawing its way out of the Great Depression. Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin gained power that was increasingly threatening to the world. And yet Mr. Poling and Millbrook identified what we could and could not control and thrived with the optimism of an open mind. Our school chaplain, aka Rev Hardy, often says that we are on the edge of possibility. She reminds us of that regularly. We are among the fortunate few schools whose philosophical integrity has been hardwired since its origin. And now we continue to aspire. We aspire to be the finest coeducational, ideal-sized boarding school in the country. The support of our trustees, our alumni, past and current parents, grandparents, and friends illustrates our success by every measure. Admission statistics are at an all-time high. We had over 800 visits to campus last year from prospective families and students. We had over 700 applications for roughly 100 spots. The annual fund continues to hit records in dollars raised and participation. We are among the top 3 boarding schools in the nation for parent and alumni participation in the annual fund. We average about 75% of our students being admitted to one of their top 2 college choices. And if you've heard of a selective college or university, we've sent Millbrook students there. The state of the school, in one word, is excellent. And we're not stopping. We just completed a new counseling center and business office, the reconstruction of a new heads house, and an alumni house named after now 50-year faculty member Bob Anthony. We have 7 new faculty homes almost completed on School Road. You probably saw those projects on the way in. And we have plans for a new boys' dormitory, a new expansion of our athletic center, and we're always in pursuit of a larger endowment to support our people, programs, and plant. Across the street at the Trevor Zoo, we are developing a master plan that is a 30-year vision for the Trevor Zoo, organizing a trustee committee for more board oversight, and even talking about a rebranding of the Trevor Zoo, which now has the greatest public-private partnership in all of independent schools. We now have over 40,000 visitors a year that come onto our campus so they can be a part of that program. We plan to go public with those developments in roughly 12 to 24 months. And if any of you have an interest in partnering with us, my contact number is 315-430-0627. That is, I still got the 315. 315-430-0627. Speaking of community effort, I've invited some of our faculty and a few faculty grandparents to join us today. That is those faculty members who, like you, are grandparents. So over here to my right, Nancy Stahl, our Director of Stewardship. She is known as Nanny. Is Barbara Gatsky here? Where's Barbara? I think Barbara's in the back. Barbara Gatsky, Director of Parent Programs, known as Gigi. Michelle Blaney, our Chief Communications Officer, is here, known as Gigi. And then the Rev Cam Hardy over here, known as Nani. Did I pronounce it right? Nani. We have incredible wisdom on our faculty, and in particular in this group. A grandparent who retired from Millbrook, who will forever be a part of the school, is my predecessor, 31-year head of school, Drew Casertano, who's grandfather of 4. And his kids call him D. And he would remind me, as he was leaving Millbrook School, that we need to say more and more and more of 3 simple phrases. Phrases that young parents like me learn over time, and I think grandparents like you truly understand. So here they are. It will work out. You can do this. Give it time. It will work out. You can do this. Give it time. In a world riddled with too much anxiety, a world that seems to share and access information instantaneously, where delayed gratification seems to be a thing of the past, I can think of no better way to remind us how to be responsive and not reactionary, to forgive ourselves for not being as perfect as the rest of our online world appears to be, and to not get caught in the competitive sport that we call parenting. It will work out. You can do this. Give it time. So those messages from my friend Drew feel like a perfect place to end. I want to thank you for giving us your time today. I, like your grandchildren, am delighted to share our wonderful school with you. Thank you.